offer you a way out, okay?
Get off my ship, Jalen.
Give me a chance.
You might be the height of shite, I'm sure, McClary. But out here, I am the fucking king. Do you understand me?
I admire your work.
Can't believe you kept it.
Not all reminders need to be scars.
I wish I could tell you what I saw. I wish I could put it into words. But most of all, I wish I could forget.
It is always about a woman, isn't it?
Don't be ridiculous.
You left her heartbroken, didn't you, Dr. Jones? For what? Were you afraid of becoming a husband? A father? Oh, you were afraid of becoming you, father.
I tried. I really did, but I can't go on without you. I can't forgive myself for what I've done. I miss you so much. I am sorry. I am so sorry.
Life isn't about holding on forever. I was gone, born, at peace, and now I'm here. Opening old wounds, filling them with salt.
Will you wait for me?
But eventually, you have to let it go.
Hey yo everyone, we made it through another year. Congratulations. Whatever trials and tribulations you went through, be proud of yourself for making it past them. Now, if you're anything like me, you love to play video games at the end of the day to take your mind off how terrible the world can be sometimes. So, as I do every year, I've compiled a list of some of the best games of the year. 2024 might not have had as many blockbusters as the previous years, but there were still some outstanding games to talk about. This list isn't in any particular order and isn't all-inclusive, just most of the games that I've played or have heard a lot about through my friends and the gaming community. So, I apologize if I missed your favorite game. If I did, feel free to let me know about it in the comments. As always, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Alright, let's get it. Alrighty, let's get into the nuts and bolts of this thing. Astrobot. Sony, color me impressed. Before Astrobot, I hadn't touched my PS5 in months. God, that thing really needed some love. But for real, for the first time in a long time, I feel as if I can show my niece a first-party PlayStation game without second-guessing if I'm a terrible influence or not.
Take it easy, man.
Holy shit, Joel.
To me, Astrobot is not only one of PlayStation's best games ever, but the future of PlayStation. Obviously, they should still make all of their serious, highly acclaimed mature titles, but Astrobot should be the mascot for PlayStation moving forward. Xbox has Master Chief, Nintendo has Mario, and PlayStation now has Astrobot. It just fits so well. The game is a beautiful homage to the history of PlayStation with tons and tons of callbacks throughout the years. It really feels like Team Asobi wanted to make a love letter to the history of the platform, and God, did they ever. Throwing in acts like Kratos, sneaking around like Snake, sniping like Aloy, they're all fantastic references. And for the truly hardcore fans, you can cash in your coins to find even more callbacks to PlayStation's rich history. On top of the game being an obvious labor of love, it also has some of the best platforming I've seen since Super Mario Odyssey. The levels are always throwing some new mechanic at you, and the DualSense controller elevates that gameplay to a whole new level. I feel as if what Team Asobi did with the controller tech in this game is exactly what Sony envisioned and hoped for when they launched the PS5. I can't say this enough. PlayStation really outdid themselves here. I can't wait to see what the future of Astrobot brings us. Next up I got... Hold on, this can't be right. EA Sports College Football 25? Nope, you are not hallucinating from that drink that strange man offered you earlier. An EA Sports game is actually on my best games of the year list. After a decade since the last entry, EA's NCAA franchise is back with a new name and a vengeance.
I thought I threw that thing out the window.
It only made it stronger.
Due to a very complicated legal battle that I won't get into in this video, EA Sports stopped producing collegiate level games back in 2013. After the name, image, and likeness rules, or NIL, were set in place in 2021, EA officially began working on their next college football game, this time working directly with the schools instead of the NCAA. Essentially, EA went to each and every one of the 134 FBS schools in the game and got their permission to be featured. And for once, they didn't skimp out on this. I'm talking about implementing the real school mascots, school songs, traditions, playbooks, rivalries, celebrations. When developing the game, EA Sports Senior Vice President Daryl Holt said that every school is somebody's favorite school, and gosh darn it, he's right. I mean, you can play anywhere from Boston College to Wisconsin, Arizona State to Auburn, 5-star juggernauts like Ohio State to poverty franchises like Iowa. Not only is the game incredibly detailed for your favorite school, but it also features, for the first time, real-life college athletes. EA Sports went ahead and scanned in over 10,000 real players into the game. Each athlete that agreed to it got $600 and a free copy of College Football 25. I mean, you can tell that this was a game that had a lot of love poured into it. They somehow managed to give it that old school NCAA charm while still introducing all of the new factors of the current college football landscape. They got Road to Glory and Dynasty mode, but also introduced wear and tear, mentals, stadium pulse, the transfer portal, and of course, the brand new 12-team playoff format. Look, I could go on and on about how great this game is, from the announcers recording lines specifically for each of the 134 schools to having to manage your work-life balance in the game. EA Sports really did something special here. I gotta give them their flowers. All of this success will probably go to their head, and this franchise might end up regressing, but damn. Even if this doesn't end well, at least this middle part is awesome. I really debated putting this game in here, but I think it at least deserves a shout out, especially since I'm a big Zelda fan. The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom is the first game in the franchise where you get to actually play as Zelda herself. After Link is swallowed up by some mysterious purple goo world, Zelda has to use her new powers from her sidekick Tri to fix up Hyrule and save Link. It's a classic 2D Zelda game, but introduces some sandbox gameplay mechanics, such as the ability to move objects and characters with Zelda's wand. Honestly, the best way to describe it is like the Link's Awakening remake times Tears of the Kingdom. It's clearly a 2D Zelda game with some great dungeons and puzzles, but takes a lot of inspiration from the sandbox elements of Tears of the Kingdom. Overall, I think the game is pretty solid. It's a fun story, interesting mechanics, and I just love a good old-fashioned 2D Zelda adventure. However, the game is held back by the Switch. A lot of the dungeons and interior areas are fine, but the overworld causes the frame rate to plummet. All of the lighting and particle effects seem to get bogged down by the Switch's archaic hardware. It's a shame when there's a great game idea that just ends up getting held back by outdated hardware. Despite all of that, the game is pretty great, and I'd recommend it to any Zelda fans. Since the story is a bit simpler and the boss fights aren't terribly difficult, this might be a fun game for younger kids, especially since they probably won't whine about the frame rate like I just did. God, Nintendo, just drop the Switch 2 already. You know, before the Game Awards, I somehow completely missed out on Balatro. After I looked it up, I was kinda confused, not gonna lie. How did a point-and-click poker game get nominated for Game of the Year? I decided I had to at least give this game a shot, and boy, was that ever a mistake. Balatro is a roguelike card game that is incredibly unique and ultra addicting. Ever since I picked this game up, I can barely set it down. I bought it in the App Store when the nominees were announced a few weeks back, and already have hours and hours put into this thing. Honestly, I don't regret it at all. Balatro is on basically every platform, but in my opinion, is the perfect mobile game. Essentially, you start out with a playing card deck and need to score a certain number of points to advance to the next round. Each different type of poker hand, such as a full house or three of a kind or whatever, act as a multiplier for your scored cards. If you're anything like me and don't know anything about poker, don't fret, because this game does an excellent job of teaching you all the different hands and rules. Oh god, I hope this doesn't awaken some deep, dormant gambling problem within me. Anyway, as you progress throughout your run, you can unlock special cards that will give you bonus points, or planet cards that will enhance your poker hand multiplier, or a joker card which will enhance your run in a variety of different ways. The more runs you go on, the more joker cards you unlock, which allow you to go on further and further runs. The roguelike aspect is done really well in here, and the premise is so simple, but so much fun. On top of all of that, the game was made by a single developer, which makes sense since it's basically solitaire too. But for real, it's not every year we see a mobile game nominated for Game of the Year, so if you're looking for a great game that'll give you hours and hours of replayability, you gotta give Balatro a shot. Still Wakes the Deep is a sleeper hit from earlier this year, and man, all you horror fans gotta give it a try. While it's not the scariest game in the world, the way the story unfolds is fascinating, and the premise is really well done. Basically, you're on this oil rig in the North Sea in 1975 when a drilling accident stirs up something sinister below the surface. As you try and navigate the crumbling facility, you discover stranger and scarier things as the story progresses. According to the game's lead designer, the inspiration for the game was The Thing, but on an oil rig. If that's the case, then they absolutely nailed it. The body horror is disgusting, the atmosphere is suffocating, and the characters all feel real and relatable. Gameplay wise, it's one of those games where you're kind of just helpless and all you can do is run and try to survive. It's essentially just a horror walking simulator, but the high-end graphics, emotional storytelling, and incredible voice work greatly enhance the experience. Last I checked, the roughly 6-hour-long game was still on Game Pass, so if this sounds interesting to you, be sure to give Still Wakes the Deep a try. I'm not much for hero shooters, but if you're gonna dangle a Marvel-inspired Overwatch game in front of me, I'm gonna bite. Marvel Rivals took off to massive success right out the gate, and it looks like it has no intentions of slowing down. The hero shooter is pretty well balanced and has almost no performance issues. Yeah, there are microtransactions, but that's to be expected with a free-to-play live service game. I will say, the cosmetics in this game are pretty sweet, so if they're gonna have microtransactions, at least they're just cosmetic and pretty cool looking. As for the gameplay, there is a huge variety of heroes to choose from, and it sounds like they're going to just keep adding on to the roster with each new season. Almost every character has a unique ability that sets them apart from the others, and there's even this really cool feature where you can team up with another hero on your team for an added bonus ability. I don't know, man, I really like this game. After the botched Avengers game, it's nice seeing a fully functional live service Marvel game that's actually solid and loved by the fans. So this game kinda had some mixed reviews, but for the most part, I think that Star Wars Outlaws deserves to be on the best games of the year list. If you didn't know, the exclusive licensing deal that EA had with Disney expired, so this is the first Star Wars game in about a decade that wasn't produced by an EA studio. Like everything Star Wars, the fans are pretty divided on this. Let's start with the positives. The game is gorgeous. It's a Ubisoft game, so the budget is pretty high, and I think the stunning environments are a pretty good reflection of that. The new characters are fun, and Nyx is also a pretty enjoyable sidekick without feeling too corny, which I was a little nervous about. The open worlds, while maybe not the most satisfying to explore, are still pretty cool, especially for longtime Star Wars fans. Plus, the utilization of the different crime syndicates is really well done in my opinion. I think that if you're just looking to get into a new Star Wars experience, then you'll be happy with Outlaws. If you're expecting a groundbreaking masterpiece, well, then you might be disappointed. The biggest problem that I've seen fans complain about is the actual gameplay mechanics, specifically the gunplay and stealth. The weapons in the game don't feel like they really pack that much of a punch, and you're also limited to only using the pistol as your main weapon. Unfortunately, this pistol is also probably the most unsatisfying weapon to use in the game. The bigger problem though is the stealth. There are issues with hiding behind cover, incredibly inconsistent AI, and just an overall frustrating stealth level design. However, with all of that being said, Ubisoft did release a massive update a few weeks ago where they basically revamped everything that players were complaining about. Updated enemy AI, the ability to hold onto weapons longer, increased weapon damage, the removal of forced stealth, and a ton of other quality of life and stability fixes. Even if the game isn't the best Star Wars experience ever, I think it's worth checking out, especially if you can get it on sale. It's not every year that we get a genuinely great remake, but damn it, Silent Hill 2 is deserving of all the praise. There were a lot of reluctant fans for this remake, and for good reason. The The original Silent Hill 2 is considered one of the greatest games of all time, pushing against the narrative that video games aren't a legitimate art form. Silent Hill 2 is a perfect blend of story, character development, gameplay, and horror. But with the franchise being dormant for so long, fans weren't sure if the 2001 original would hold up for modern audiences. Would it be possible to catch that lightning in a bottle again, or was Silent Hill 2 just the product of being the right game at the right time? Well, somehow the devs at Bloober Team were able to make Silent Hill 2 relevant again. Not only relevant, but completely revive the franchise into the mainstream. The psychological thriller still holds up, the horror aspects have only improved with newer technology, and updated gameplay mechanics make the game far more accessible for modern audiences. Or at least, that's what I've heard. I'm gonna be real with you guys for a second here. I haven't played this game yet, not because I don't want to, but because I am so scared of how terrifying it looks. I do kind of overreact a lot though. I mean, I step in a puddle and yell for a life preserver. Anyway, it's incredible what Bloober Team has done with this IP, and I'm very interested to see what's next for the Silent Hill franchise. God damn it, this is why Ubisoft is going to go out of business. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is one of the best Metroidvania platforming games I've played in years, and honestly, probably one of the best Ubisoft games in general. Despite all of the critical and fan praise, the game didn't sell incredibly well. I mean, can you blame it? The Prince of Persia is basically the definition of a dormant franchise, and as much as I love the game, the style isn't always appealing to the masses. But it is a great game. So, to punish Ubisoft Montpellier for making a legitimately great game, Ubisoft disbanded the studio after they pitched a sequel idea. What are you doing, Ubisoft? You're gonna disband the studio that just made one of the best games you've put out in years? What are you, taking notes from Xbox now? They say the poor sales is the main reason why, but dude, we're in a global recession. What were you expecting? Despite Ubisoft's abhorrent mismanagement of talent, The Lost Crown is phenomenal. A great story, fantastic platforming, creative level design, and innovative game mechanics. I think that if you're a fan of the series or Metroidvania games or just great games in general, then I'd highly recommend this. The story isn't terribly long and the pacing is really well done, so you always feel like you're moving forward, despite the fact that you're constantly backtracking to explore new areas and puzzles once you unlock new abilities. I'm so disappointed that we won't be getting a sequel to this. Honestly, this just ups the ante for the Sands of Time remake, so Ubisoft, you better not fumble. Another year, another Call of Duty. It seems as if the pendulum has swung back in the other direction, and I am once again a Call of Duty fanboy. For real though, Black Ops 6 is one of the best Call of Duties in ages. An unbelievably smooth launch, tons of content available right away, completely reinvented movement, and one of the best campaigns to date. This is Xbox's first Call of Duty since the Activision acquisition, and Black Ops 6 appears to have come in clutch. Besides all of the great things I listed earlier, the game also launched on Game Pass day one, leading it to become one of the most successful launches in franchise history. I feel as if we rarely see Call of Duty truly innovate and stray too far from its formulaic success from the past, but Black Ops 6 really did put in the effort to reinvent itself. Obviously, they can't stray too far away from what the fans are expecting, but the new Omni movement raises the skill ceiling for new fans and puts a fun twist on the classic FPS gameplay. Going back to the campaign, this might be one of the best in the entire series. Like, there is some crazy game design in here that I just wasn't expecting from a Call of Duty title. Moments that were genuinely jaw-dropping, or in some cases, downright horrifying. The variety of mission types makes each level feel unique and rewarding. As for the zombies, I love it. As a longtime Zombies fan, I was pretty reluctant of what we were shown for Black Ops 6. I wasn't really a fan of the health bars and armor mechanics in Zombies, but after I played the game, I felt like Treyarch took all of the good ideas from Cold War and implemented them with the OG Zombies mechanics. Weapon rarity gives you something to grind for in-game and ensures that your weapons are actually viable during high rounds. Armor is basically just a little boosted jug, and the zombie health bars and overall screen layout can be completely revamped in the settings so it looks like the older zombie modes. Plus, the Easter eggs are pretty fun, but don't feel like they're required in order to enjoy the maps, which I felt like was a problem in previous Black Ops games. The amount of hidden side quests and lore pieces hidden around the launch maps is incredible, and overall, I think this is one of the best Zombies experiences in years. I'm really happy with how Black Ops 6 turned out and can't wait to see what expansions this year's Call of Duty will have in store for us. The Outlast Trials is the perfect co-op horror game. Red Barrels might have struck gold with this one. The original Outlast was one of the best horror games of its time and spawned a pretty successful franchise. With their latest entry, Red Barrels decided to mix it up a bit and make a co-op version of the game. In Outlast Trials, you and up to 3 other friends are locked up in this asylum thing and have to complete these trials in order to earn your freedom. I gotta admit, these are pretty fucked up. From electrocuting fellow prisoners to sawing off a crucified man's legs, the gore is plentiful. As you work to complete the different trials, you have to do your best to avoid a variety of mobs that are constantly stalking you. Like the other Outlast games, you don't really get much to fight back with. Instead, you're equipped with some night vision goggles that have limited battery life, so you have to somehow avoid the killers, manage your inventory, and commit acts against humanity. As you complete different trials though, you can unlock new abilities and perks, such as a stun device to get out of sticky situations, or an ability to barricade up doors. The replayability is pretty good in this game, and it's especially fun when you party up. I hope the Outlast Trials gets a long lifeline of support, cause this is definitely the type of live service game that I'd like to see go the distance. Speaking of going the distance, Pacific Drive is freaking amazing. This might be my favorite indie game of the year. Set in the Pacific Northwest, your character is trapped in this quarantine zone that is all types of messed up because of some nuclear accident or something. Anyway, you and this old beat up station wagon have to make your way across the PNW in order to escape. As you continue on different runs, you can scavenge and loot parts, which can in turn be used to upgrade your equipment and most importantly, your car. The more you take care of the car, the more the car will take care of you. This thing is basically your lifeline, so you gotta be sure to always have gas on hand or a spare tire in the trunk. The story is pretty fun, and the gameplay can range from soothing to downright straight anxiety. The devs did release an update a while back that allowed you to modify your different saves though, and it's pretty sweet. If you want to up the difficulty, you can change it so every little pothole does extra damage and you run out of gas quicker. Or if you wanted to just have a chill driving experience, which Pacific Drive does really well, then you can change up the settings to have no mobs and lesser damage. Honestly, this game is just really fun and a pretty unique experience. As weird as it sounds, you kind of form this companionship with your car, and it gives you this sense of pride as you work to upgrade it. I'm not sure what the studio has next in the pipeline, but Pacific Drive has definitely earned them some clout. And while we're on the topic of indies, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle has got to be one of, if not the best Xbox game in years. It genuinely feels like you're stepping into the boots of indie, which I was kind of on the fence about. The decision to go first person had fans a little skeptical at first, but Machine Games definitely knew what they were doing. Every location, every puzzle, every fistfight, you feel like you're actually Indiana Jones. Troy Baker does an incredible Harrison Ford impression, so much so to the point where there were moments I completely forgot this wasn't the original Indiana. In terms of story, this is easily the best Indiana Jones story since the original trilogy. Yeah, you gotta buy into the fantastical elements, but once you do, it's one hell of a ride. All of the locations and characters and plot devices feel natural to the indie lore, and the music cues in here are freaking great. I know I'm just gushing all over this one, but I legit feel like this has been one of the best games I've played in years. With that being said, it's not perfect. I do have a few gripes. The game is pretty linear, and although it gives you big open spaces to explore and do side quests, it doesn't feel quite right going back to it after beating the main story. I almost kind of wish the game would emphasize doing some of the side quests while you're in an area instead of pushing you towards the main objective, because once you leave a certain area such as the Vatican and revisit it later on in the story, it kind of breaks the immersion. But now I'm just nitpicking, to be honest. With how successful the game has been so far, it seems like a no-brainer to greenlight a sequel. Xbox has got something special on their hands here, and they definitely need to make sure they don't spoil it. I absolutely want more of this. Okay, before I wrap up this video, I wanted to give out some honorable mentions. There are a lot of great games this year that I wasn't quite able to squeeze into the list. All of these games are super great though, so I felt they deserve some sort of recognition, even if it's not its own entry on my list. Anyway, Metaphor ReFantazio. I wish I was more knowledgeable on the subject to talk about it more. From what I've seen, ReFantazio might be Atlus's best game to date. From amazing music, incredibly refined combat, and a fantastic story, this is definitely a game worth looking into. Hopefully I find some extra time to get into it this winter. Black Myth Wukong is an absolutely gorgeous RPG that follows the story of the classic Chinese tale Journey to the West. Seriously, these graphics are incredible and the combat is very fluid. On top of that, the story is a great one. If you're a fan of mythology and fantasy RPGs, this game looks like a must play. I was going to put it on my regular list as a full entry, but I don't know enough about it to really give it justice. Another game that piqued my interest when it was first announced was The Plucky Squire. The art style is so unique, and the gameplay aspects fit it so well. It's currently on my wishlist for my Switch, so I'm definitely going to cop this when it goes on sale. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a Game of the Year nominee that I honestly haven't heard much about. It released in early 2024, but kinda lost a lot of relevance pretty quick. Also, I guess it didn't sell as well as Square Enix was hoping. That being said, people seem to really enjoy it, and it seems as if it's just another great Final Fantasy game. I really like how they're doing this retcon trilogy thing, even if I'm not really following the Final Fantasy franchise myself. Sonic X Shadow Generations is another game I haven't played, but have heard a lot of great things about. The game is packed with content, a satisfying story, and a ton of extra stuff for longtime fans. Between this, the Knuckles TV show, and Sonic 3 movie, Sonic fans have been feasting lately. Sticking with the remakes, Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door did not disappoint one bit. This has got to be one of the most requested remakes in recent memory, and Nintendo did a great job bringing it to the Switch. The upgraded graphics are beautiful, and the story holds up just as well today as it did on the original GameCube. Hopefully the next Paper Mario entry can recapture some of this magic and bring the franchise some real relevance again. Animal Well is a really cool indie that does not hold your hand at all. It's a visually stunning Metroidvania that is chock full of Easter eggs and side quests. I understand why this game is getting a lot of love, but for me personally, I didn't really care for it too much. I kept getting lost and confused on what I was supposed to do, so it might have just been a skill issue as to why I didn't enjoy it as much as everyone else. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 is a game that I really wanted to make time for this year but couldn't get around to it. The reviews are great, and from what I've seen, it looks like something that I'd really enjoy. Intense combat, great world building, and top-notch graphics. It looks like a dope power trip that isn't just mindless killing either, as apparently the AI is pretty smart in here and gives a decent challenge. Hopefully this goes on sale soon and I can check it out for myself. Another game on my backlog, I know there's a lot, is Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. Supposedly it's even better than the first one, which is pretty high praise because the original was fantastic. The graphics are probably the best Xbox has put out this generation, and the visual design just enhances that tenfold. I really love this setting for a psychological horror game, and Hellblade 2 does not shy away from the gore. The story isn't terribly long, but it's great, and the characters are memorable. Special shout out to Melina Juergens, who is now the first voice actor to have won multiple Best Performance Awards at the Game Awards, both as Senua for the Hellblade series. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth is great. I mean, I got nothing else to add. This franchise just keeps pumping out bangers, and people love them. Goofy fun with a ridiculous amount of content to enjoy. Satisfactory is like taking all of the intricacies of Redstone Minecraft and turning it into its own game. Essentially, you land on this alien planet and have to build these elaborate factories in order to strip the planet of its resources in as efficient a manner as possible. As you build up more resources, you can ship them off to company headquarters and unlock better equipment and machinery to increase workflow. It's super satisfying, but can get incredibly complicated very, very fast. Seriously, you better do some planning before getting operations up to full steam in here. Okay, the last couple of honorable mentions: Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree and Destiny 2 The Final Shape. Not independent games themselves, but great content regardless. I still don't think Shadow of the Erdtree should have been nominated for Game of the Year, but it is undeniable that these games put out great stuff this year. And finally, my personal Game of the Year, Helldivers 2. It's such a shame Helldivers 2 was snubbed as a Game of the Year candidate. Not only did I really want to see this theme song utilized in the orchestral mashup, but Helldivers 2 was legitimately a gaming phenomenon. It seemingly came out of nowhere and took over the entire internet. For the first time in a long time, it felt like the gaming community was united. Everyone wanted to spill oil for Super Earth, or squash bugs with their friends, or even just watch some of the most naturally cinematic gameplay that has ever existed. Yeah, the game has some live service vices, but in my opinion, it's pretty well done here. Obviously, you can buy microtransactions, but you don't really have to, or at least don't feel like you're forced to. There are plenty of super credits, the in-game currency, to be found throughout the various missions in the game. But to be honest, this is the type of live service game that I'd be willing to throw a little bit of extra cash at. It's just that good, man. On top of that, the Helldivers 2 community rallied to stop Sony from forcing users to create a PlayStation account after they already purchased the game. It's a bit of a long-winded story, but basically all you need to know is that bullying works. Honestly, this is the live service game that PlayStation should have been putting their money into instead of Concord. Also, please make it cross-platform with Xbox so we can all game together. If you have some friends that love PvE co-op, Helldivers 2 needs to be something in your library immediately. Trust me on this one, you won't regret it. And that's my list! What have I missed? I know there are definitely some bangers out there that I didn't cover. My worst games of the year list is currently in the oven and will hopefully be out soon. In the meantime, if you made it all the way to the end, wow, thank you so much. This channel has grown quite a bit this past year, and I'm going to continue to keep working on weekly uploads. Whether you're a first-time viewer or a long-time subscriber, thank you, for real. It means a lot to me that you guys watch these videos and take the time out of your day to leave a comment. I hope to continue to improve on my videos, and I hope that you guys stick around to join me on the journey. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It means a lot. I appreciate you guys as always, and I'll catch you on the next one.